Hey everyone. I wanted to talk a few minutes about a murder perpetrated by a New York Police Department officer, if you want to call him that. I call him a thug, of a guy named Eric Garner. If you want to see the footage of what I'm talking about, go on to Huff Crime. It is, and go to the raw footage of the murder of Eric Garner. And this guy was on a sidewalk. Now, this supposedly was some infractions in the past where he was like selling loose cigarettes. But on the day that the incident occurred, he had supposedly broken up a fight, and he was being harassed by the cops and being told that he was going to be put under arrest. But one came in and just swarmed in and put him in a chokehold. And in 1993, that was a practice that was no longer acceptable by the police department. And this guy was put in a chokehold. You can hear him in the footage saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And he was a big guy thrown to the ground in the chokehold, stayed in the chokehold, and he died subsequently of strangulation. And in the raw footage, if you go on to Huff Crime, you will see the fact that he's laying there with his head basically flopping around because he's dead. And you will see there's got to be at least 11, 12, 13 police officers surrounding him, which is disgusting in and of itself. Okay? But, so he's on the ground, head flopping around, and you'll see two cops that are holding his body up. One with a leg near the groin area of the corpse, and one is holding the shoulder back, and the head's just laying over like this, you know. And there is, at one point I thought that maybe the cops were telling the truth in that, you know, he was still breathing, because I heard somebody cough. And I looked at the footage really closely. The person who coughed was the cop standing to the left of the corpse. And you'll see him raise his hand up, and he coughs twice, you know. And, you know, I do not know if he did that for effect or if he had to cough, but it was not the dead person on the ground. But this is the reason why I keep reiterating what I'm saying right now, is because Pat Lynch, the president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, if that's not Orwellian, said that it was not what the coroner stated was the cause of death, which was a homicide by compression of the throat area. It was all political. And that he gave these very sick justifications for, you know, the murder of this guy by a member of the New York City Police Department, which is one of the most corrupt police departments in the United States. That and Chicago go hand in hand. He mentions early on in his press conference how Stop, Ask, and Frisk was put into law. It's unconstitutional at its basis, so I dismiss that bullshit as being legitimate at all, because they will randomly, probably mostly black people, but they will randomly go up and ask people to stop, ask them questions, and say they're going to search them. That is a Fourth Amendment violation, period, end of story. So this Pat Lynch, who, if you look at the people in the press conference, it's a group of them, and you'll find, you can find it for yourself, but if you put in Pat Lynch, the Benevolent Patrolmen's Association, you should be able to find this press conference. And every single one of them was like a mafia thug behind the dawn. And it's if peace officers were acting as a Andy Griffith or a Barney Fife, or as a part of the community, or as, not this force of, do as I say and do it now, or you're going to probably be tased or, die, or be shot, whatever, it would be a completely different story. I used to look in the rear view mirror, and if I saw a cop or a sheriff, I would think nothing of it. I mean, because you used to get, if you were stopped for a busted taillight or sometimes a speeding ticket. I mean, I've gotten warnings. That doesn't happen anymore. It's a rarity, I would say, 1 in 100,000, 100 or more. I don't know. Just it's 1 in a million. I do not see that is a practice anymore, because it is about revenue generation and it is about quotas. They will deny it, but you must understand that under police standards, they are taught that it's really okay to lie to the general public. Don't trust me. You look up their guidelines and ethics of conduct. And I have. It's just not just opinion. And I have looked at footage of police brutality, and people really need to be paying attention to this, because we are not treated as American autonomous citizens. We are not treated like human beings. We are being treated more and more like cattle, like we are subhuman, and it is beyond wrong. I mean, the instances. I mean, a guy who at night joyriding with his friends, who blew through a stop sign. He probably attempted to stop, and didn't see traffic coming and left. He was honest with the cop, which you really shouldn't even talk to them. I mean, seriously, that's what the experts say. You don't talk to cops. If you admit that you were drinking that night at all, which I don't drink, I mean, so I don't have to suffer any of these consequences. But if you admit that you had, drinking one drink that evening, they will start playing a game where if you say you don't want a breathalyzer test, they'll start saying things like, I can smell alcohol on your breath. I need you to, do this breathalyzer. We're going to have to take you downtown. Whatever it is. But there was an instance where a guy went through a stop sign. Cops stopped him. The guy was begging and pleading that the cop just not escalate the situation. And the cop did. And there was, a few cops on the scene. The guy lost a testicle. They had him kneed so far down into the ground that the guy lost a nut. And it's absolutely uncalled for. And God knows what his court fines were, what the fines were, what the points are on his record. Who knows? And that in itself is a racket. The checkpoints, all of it. People don't recognize that these checkpoints are becoming more and more and more and more prevalent. That there is a border, it's actually 100 miles, around the whole perimeter of the United States. It's considered, and people don't know this, an unconstitutional zone, or constitution-free zone, where they will have this checkpoint, looks all official and, very important, and people go through and they're asked if they're a U.S. citizen or not. And what is really ironic and what is really stupid about the whole thing now is the fact that our borders are wide open. And the bottom line is that U.S. citizens are being harassed. And to pinpoint it even further, and I'm going to say this unequivocally, I'm not a racist in any way, shape, or form. If you meet me face to face, and if you are a decent human being, I really don't care what color you are. But I'm telling you right now, there is a war, economically, Now asymmetrically, through having all of these illegals come flooding into our borders, it's a war against the American middle class, and therefore it's a decimation of the white population in the long run. Pure and simple. If you look at world events closely enough, if you look at the trends, if you look at, and Christianity is another population, not just whites, you know, because right now everybody in the Middle East, Africa, or whomever, who's Christian, I mean, are getting slaughtered. But sooner or later, if the trend does not change, we're going to be transformed into a third world country. I mean, we're heading there pretty fast already. And I'm alarmed. I do not see how people are not recognizing. I mean, they're so insulated in their own lives and do not care to look outside of their simple spectrum of day-to-day activity to see this encroachment of absolute, blatant, satanic insanity. It's coming at us at all fronts. It's not just corruption in police forces. It's the wrongful actions of the Department of Homeland Security. It is the buildup of arsenals, including armored vehicles and these different types of weapons to disperse crowds that they say is non-lethal, but you know, the sound cannons that they have, these sound vehicles, which emit these high-pitched, screeching sounds, can explode your eardrums, can rattle the brain inside of the skull, and we're just putting up with it. And when I hear about a guy like Eric Garner, which is just supposedly he was just broken up a fight on this sidewalk, and he was with friends, and the police started harassing him. Now, as I said, he supposedly had been stopped in the past for like selling like loose cigarettes, but he wasn't doing it that day. But even if he was selling cigarettes that day, the method of arrest murdered him. And this police sergeant or whatever he is, the president of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, saying that it wasn't a chokehold. You have to trust your own eyes when you look at the video to see the guy was in a chokehold and that he was murdered. That the person they were dealing, that this, I don't know, 12, 15, or whatever amount of cops mulling around like pack wolves were looking at this guy on the ground, and he was lifeless. You know, the EMT comes in and you know, you can tell on her face she's going, shit, this guy's dead. And you know, talking to him as if he was alive to let him know that, you know, we're getting a stretcher and all that. But it took, you know, all these people to hoist this heavy man onto a gurney where, you know, he's still flopping around. And the coroner's report said it was strangulation in so many words, and that it was a homicide. So you need to listen to both sides if you wish, but I'm telling you, the New York Police Department and the police department in Chicago are some of the most corrupt bastards. You know, you go back, you know, you can go back to Frank Serpico to you know, and there's been rare interviews, and Alex Jones did one of them, you know, that depict just how screwed up these departments are. The money laundering of drugs, the taking of drugs, prostitution, you know, you name it. So it's like, how do you want to live? This happened out in broad daylight, and these thugs in a press conference, you know, with Pat Lynch up front, this son of a bitch just condoning it, saying, you know, it's for public safety. No. There were people that were appalled at that moment, and you could see how they were condoning it or hiding it from the very beginning. It's disgusting. It's beyond disgusting. And I would suggest that everybody take a look at it and see that, you know, you want to be safe in your hometown. You know, you should be able to look at a police officer or a sheriff in your rearview mirror walking down a sidewalk and not be scared. And if you're intellectually honest with yourself, you know, as well as I do, that you are uncomfortable too, for the types of reasons that I'm discussing. And this is something you need to meditate on and understand that you need to, in your own areas, maybe talk to department heads or just police officer in general to ask what's up, and to, you know, to help each other out. So, I mean, these decisions are ours. It's to the level that we will put up with abuse of power that it will continue. What do you want for your future generation?